Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself scrolling mindlessly, chasing likes, drowning in opinions that don't belong to you, then wondering, why am I even doing this? Have you ever felt like your mind was hijacked by fear, doubt, comparison, or the noise of the world? You wake up with goals, but by lunch, you're reacting to life instead of creating it. You wanted peace, but ended up with panic. You planned to lead, but you followed the herd again. Why? Because you didn't choose your thoughts, they were chosen for you. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant flowers, weeds will grow by default, and there are people, entire systems, counting on your ignorance of that truth. Because when you drift, you're easier to control. This isn't just mental laziness, it's psychological slavery. And the cost? Your life, your purpose, your potential. That's why I said it plainly, and I'll say it again. You either control your mind or someone else will. Now let me explain what I meant and why this one truth could change everything for you if you let it. When I first wrote those words, I wasn't speaking in metaphor. I was sounding an alarm. Most people don't own their minds. They rent them out to fear, to comfort, to distraction, to other people's agendas. They let the news anchor think for them. They let fear vote for them. They let gossip define their worth. Why? Because they never learned what I call definiteness of purpose, a mind under your command. Today's world moves faster than ever, but the principle remains the same. Either you discipline your mind, or the world disciplines it for you. This isn't just about positive thinking. It's about building a mental fortress, brick by brick, with clarity, intention, and emotional control. If you don't, you become like a feather in the wind, moved not by your desires, but by everyone else's. Now let me show you what happens when you don't heed this warning. You've arrived at Napoleon Hill, a place where truth isn't sugar-coated and success isn't accidental. Here we don't whisper, we speak boldly, because your mind, yes, the one racing right now, is the steering wheel of your destiny. And if you don't grip it with intention, someone else will. Today's world is louder, faster, and more distracting than ever. But the real danger isn't outside, it's inside your own head. The danger is drifting from your goals, drifting from your values, drifting from the life you know you were meant to live. In my writings, from Think and Grow Rich to Outwitting the Devil, I taught that the greatest war we will ever fight is the one between our ears. And today, I'll walk you through 5 powerful pillars that will change the way you think forever. Number 1, the war inside your mind. Let me tell you something most people will never say out loud. The greatest war you will ever fight is the one no one can see. It's not out there. It's not between countries, parties, or people. It's in your mind, every single day. You don't need bombs to destroy a life. All it takes is a belief that you're not good enough. You don't need chains to be a prisoner. All it takes is surrendering the right to think for yourself. That's how it begins. This war is not loud. It's quiet. It shows up in the form of self-doubt. It whispers, "You're not ready. Someone else already did it. What if you fail? What will they think?" And here's the truth, my friend. If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self. Napoleon Hill. That's why the first step to reclaiming your power is to realize you are not your thoughts. You are their commander. But most people, they don't command anything. They are passengers, sitting quietly in the back seat, while fear, insecurity, and distraction drive the vehicle. They never trained the mind. They never challenged the noise. They never even asked, is this belief mine, or did someone put it there? Let that question land, because I promise you, most of your limits didn't start with you. They were installed by a parent who gave you their fear, by a teacher who underestimated your potential, by a boss who couldn't see past your mistakes, by a society that profits from your self-doubt. And if you don't wake up and declare war on those lies, they will run your entire life. That is why I stress this in every book, every lecture, every breath of my life's work. The man who wins is the man who thinks he can. But more than that, he is the man who takes responsibility for every thought he allows to live in his mind. Because thoughts become things. They shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your habits. And your habits shape your fate. So what happens if you let your thoughts go unchecked? You lose the battle before it even begins. Listen closely now. This war will not be won with comfort. It will be won with awareness, decision, and discipline. Discipline to stop indulging thoughts that belittle you. Discipline to reject ideas that weaken your spirit. Discipline to feed your mind only what strengthens your purpose. And above all, the decision to fight. This war doesn't end in a day. It is a daily battle. But if you fight, if you show up with clarity and purpose, your mind becomes your servant instead of your master. And when that happens, the world bends to the will of your focused, controlled, and conscious mind. Now let us move forward, because if the mind is the battlefield, then the next enemy you must face is drifting. Number 2, the hypnotic rhythm of drifting. Let me take you into the darkest, most deceptive force I ever uncovered. It is not evil in the way you expect. It doesn't shout. It doesn't show its face. No, this enemy wears a smile. It pretends to be harmless. It lets you sleep in a little longer. It says, you can do it tomorrow. It tells you to scroll one more time, rest one more day, postpone one more dream. It is the silent assassin of destiny, and I gave it a name, drifting. When I interviewed over 25,000 people, from titans of industry to men broken by failure, I noticed one repeating pattern. The ones who succeeded were definite. The ones who suffered, they drifted. Let me define it clearly. A drifter is a person who has no definite purpose, no self-discipline, no control over their mind, and worse, no desire to gain control. They react to life. They wait for chances. They follow the crowd. Their motto? Let's see what happens. They let the hypnotic rhythm of routine lull them into complacency. They become victims of momentum, but not the kind of momentum that leads to greatness. No, the momentum of regret. Now, I ask the question you're probably asking right now. But Napoleon, how does drifting take control without us knowing? The answer is this. It starts small, tiny compromises, tiny fears, tiny delays. You say, it's just one missed workout. It's just one distraction. It's just one day without working on my dream. But here's the sinister truth. Drifting doesn't destroy your life all at once. It steals it one invisible day at a time. You look up one day and 10 years are gone. Not because something happened to you, but because nothing did. And the scariest part? Drifting doesn't feel like failure. It feels like comfort. It feels like numbness, like autopilot. You wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. No progress, no purpose, but also no alarm bells. Because drifting has hypnotized your mind. And once you're in that rhythm, it becomes harder and harder to escape. Because the longer you drift, the deeper the groove becomes. That's what I meant when I said, nature will not tolerate idleness. Every mind must be occupied with something. And if you don't occupy it, the devil will. The devil, my friend, is not some horned beast. It is every fear, distraction, and delay that keeps you from who you were born to become. And the only cure for drifting is definiteness of purpose. That is the lifeline, the compass, the cure. When you become definite, when you choose what you want and commit without excuse, you break the hypnotic rhythm, you disrupt the cycle, you become alive again. So let me ask you, what are you drifting away from? Your health, your power, your potential? And more importantly, are you ready to stop drifting and take back the wheel? Because if you are, then you must build what the next pillar reveals. Mental discipline, the doorway to power. Number 3, mental discipline, the doorway to power. Let me tell you the raw, untold truth most will never admit. Freedom is not found in doing whatever you feel like. It is found in doing what is necessary, even when you don't feel like it. You want power, you want peace, you want purpose, then you must earn it. And the price? Mental discipline. I don't mean punishing yourself, I mean training your mind the way a warrior trains his body, with focus, persistence, and intensity. Let me ask you, have you ever tried to focus on something important, but your mind kept wandering? One minute you're dreaming of building your business, the next minute you're checking your phone, scrolling someone else's life, feeding your brain with junk while your soul starves for meaning. That's what undisciplined thinking does. It makes you a spectator of your life, not the author of it. But here's what I discovered and taught to every student, executive, and dreamer I mentored. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you do not control what you think, you cannot control what you do. Napoleon Hill, your thoughts create your actions. Your actions shape your habits. Your habits write your future. But it all begins at the top with thought control. Now, how do we control the mind? Through auto-suggestion, through repetition, through choice. Every single day, I fed my mind on purpose. I wrote and recited affirmations that aligned with my goals. I visualized success until it became familiar. I burned desire into my subconscious until it could not be ignored. And you can do the same. But you must stop treating your mind like a rental car. It's not meant to be handed over to whoever or whatever shows up. It's yours, and it needs a daily workout. If you don't give your mind direction, it will fall back into drifting. And drifting, as I've said, is the devil's playground. Mental discipline is not glamorous. It's waking up before the excuses. It's reading instead of scrolling. It's practicing patience when your ego wants revenge. It's choosing what matters over what's easy. Let me give you something practical here. Every night before bed, I wrote my goals. Every morning, I repeated them aloud, with emotion, not like a robot, like a man possessed by a dream, because repetition with emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. And once the subconscious believes, it creates. So if you are tired of feeling out of control, tired of watching life pass you by, then you must build your inner fortress, one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. Discipline your mind to see only what you want to see, to hear only what you want to hear, and to speak only what you wish to become. That is the real power, the power to say, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and nothing, not fear, not failure, not distraction, will take me off course. And when your mind is disciplined, you stop reacting and you begin creating, which brings us to the next battleground, one just as powerful, yet often overlooked. Your environment, the invisible hand that shapes your destiny. Number 4, environment, the invisible hand that shapes you. Now listen to me carefully. You are not just a product of your decisions. You are a product of your environment. And if you don't design it with intention, it will design you without your permission. Let me explain. When I spent over 25 years studying the habits of the richest, wisest, and most powerful people in the world, men like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, I noticed something they all did differently. They protected their environment like their life depended on it, because it does. You see, your environment is the silent sculptor of your character. Napoleon Hill. It molds your standards. It determines your ceiling. It whispers what's possible and what's not. And most people, they are drowning in environments that poison their ambition. They surround themselves with negative people, consume fear-driven media, live in cluttered spaces, take advice from broke minds with loud opinions, and then they wonder, why do I feel stuck? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? It's because your environment is not neutral. It's either fueling your growth or feeding your destruction. Let me ask you directly, who do you spend the most time with? Are they building you or draining you? Do they challenge your excuses or enable them? Do they speak about vision or about people? If you want to rise, but you're surrounded by people who fear elevation, you'll either shrink to fit their comfort or break away and grow. And that's a decision most people never make. They stay stuck out of loyalty to the past, out of fear of rejection, out of guilt. But hear me clearly. You cannot become a new version of yourself while staying loyal to the conditions that created the old one. Sachurosin, Sakuri, Kindi. Chachiri and Changi doesn't just require internal work, it requires external boundaries. Let me give you something real. When I began working with Andrew Carnegie, he told me plainly, you will never write anything of lasting value if you stay around mediocre thinkers. That wasn't a judgment, that was wisdom. So I left comfort, I left noise, and I built a space around me that mirrored where I was going, not where I had been. I surrounded myself with possibility, books, dreamers, visionaries, silence. Yes, silence. Because sometimes the most dangerous noise is the noise you never stop to hear. Now listen, you don't need to be cruel to upgrade your environment, but you do need to be brutally honest. Ask yourself, does my environment reflect my goals? Do the voices I hear daily make me stronger or smaller? Am I building a space that nourishes my potential or numbs it? Because you cannot plant seeds of greatness in toxic soil and expect a harvest. The mind is fertile ground, but the environment, that's the weather, the water, the sunlight, the wind. Control it or be controlled by it. And when you do take control, when your inner world is disciplined and your outer world supports it, something incredible happens. You awaken the creator within. Let's talk about that. Number 5, the creator within, becoming the master of thought. Now we arrive at the most sacred truth I ever discovered. You, yes, you, are not just flesh, not just blood, not just a bundle of habits and fears walking through the world. You are a creator, a designer, a force with the power to shape reality itself. But here's the tragedy. Most people die without ever meeting this part of themselves. They live inside cages built by the opinions of others. They wear masks handed to them by society. They follow routines they never questioned, and they forget that they were born with one of the greatest powers ever known, the power to think and choose what to think. Let me remind you, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Napoleon Hill. Not maybe, not only for the lucky, not if the stars align. If you can truly conceive it, if you can believe it with emotion and certainty, then your mind will set in motion the forces, ideas, people, and circumstances to make it real. That's not magic. That's the law of definite chief aim. That's the law of autosuggestion. That's the law of faith in action. But the key lies here. You must become the master of your thoughts, not their servant. Most people, they react to their thoughts. A negative emotion appears and they let it lead the day. A fear pops up and they hand over the steering wheel. A doubt whispers and they stop dreaming. But not you, not anymore. If you are hearing my voice, let me tell you, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses them. Your mind is a tool, not a tyrant, but you must train it, and that begins with awareness. Stop and listen to yourself. What do you tell yourself every day? I'm not good enough. It's too late. I always mess things up. People like me don't win. Those thoughts, they're not facts. They're programs written by childhood pain, societal pressure, past mistakes. But the beautiful truth is this. You can rewrite them. You can choose thoughts that empower, thoughts that lift, thoughts that build bridges instead of walls. Try this. Speak out loud what you want, as if it already exists, every day, with emotion, not as a wish, but as a command to your subconscious. For example, I am bold and unstoppable. I attract the right people and opportunities. I am building a legacy, one disciplined day at a time. These words become beliefs. Beliefs become decisions. Decisions become destiny. But only if you own them. Only if you remember that you are not just a character in the story of your life. You are the author. So let me ask you, if you could think any thought, why keep thinking the ones that make you weak? Why not choose the ones that make you rise? Because when you realize this truth, when you become the master of thought, you become what I call the non-drifter. And the non-drifter, he doesn't chase the world, he builds it. Xerania, the transformation arc, the journey now. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning not with dread, not with doubt, but with certainty. Certainty in who you are, certainty in where you're going, certainty that no matter what comes, failure, fear, delay, you will keep moving. That is the moment the transformation begins. It's not loud, it's not glamorous, it doesn't come with applause, it starts in silence, in a whisper that says, I am no longer available for the life I used to accept. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently, because now you understand your mind is a garden, and you, yes, you, are the only one who can plant in it. You stop entertaining self-pity. You stop giving power to critics who've never built anything. You stop begging the world to believe in you, and instead you believe in yourself so loudly the world has no choice but to listen. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You begin designing your environment like a craftsman, choosing people who fuel your fire, not smother it, feeding your mind with ideas that lift, not poison, training your emotions like an athlete trains his muscles, day in, day out, and slowly, the invisible becomes visible. The vague dream sharpens into a plan. The plan becomes a habit. The habit becomes your identity. You are no longer a drifter. You're no longer moved by storms because you have become the storm. This is what happens when you apply what I have taught. This is what happens when you become the master of your mind. You don't chase success. You become it. Now let's strip away the mystery. You don't need a miracle. You don't need permission. And you sure as hell don't need to wait. You need one thing, a decision. A clear, non-negotiable, fully emotional, burn the bridges kind of decision. A decision to take control of your mind. Today, not someday. Because someday is the dream killer. Someday is how people go to their graves with music still in them.